Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 2 of Master and Opening Strategy. Got a really cool game to look at today. This is a bit of an older game, it's from 1964, but there is a reason why it is in every single opening theory book going. We have Mikhail Tal in the white against Georgy Tringov in the black. Now, this is a game, it's only 17 moves long and there is a lot to unpack in it. It really just demonstrates the importance of getting yourself into a good solid position, your basic chess principles, early development of the minor pieces, and it really shows the pitfalls of just picking the pawns instead of the minor pieces in the opening. So let's just dive right into it. So it starts with an e4, g6 opening. This is the modern defense, and this is essentially Black's way of saying, I'm going to fianchetto straight away. White just continues as normal, so d4, fianchetto, horsey c3, d6, horsey f3, c6. Now, we can already see from this position, look at all the space that White is actually controlling. All of these squares are controlled by White. He's done the normal developmental moves, getting the pawns straight up to control the centre, knights before the bishops, and we're already in a pretty favourable position. And like we said at the start, Black has decided to favour getting the pawns out instead of just developing as normal. So White continues with the bishop across to the g5, again, normal developmental move, and Black makes the somewhat risky move of just getting the queen across to the b6, coming down, attacking the b2 square. Now, it's not a terrible move by any means, and it can be quite common in the modern defence. But really, what Black should be doing is just developing. So we're getting the bishop across, going for the pin like so, or even getting the horsey out and just making room so he can castle. But like I say, instead he decides to go for the queen. Now, Tal decides to just bring up the queen onto the d2, pairing it off with this bishop here, and sacrificing this pawn on the b2. Now, a lot of modern opening theory does recommend giving up that pawn in favour of further development. So bringing across the rook like so, getting it onto a nice open file. Clearly, the queen can't take because it's defended by the horsey. Both the pawns are defended by the horsey and the queen, so he has to move across to here onto the a3. The queen's now made multiple moves. We're just developing further. And yeah, we're just in, like I say, a much more favourable position. Another good thing about this queen coming up to the the d2 is where the bishop would normally come across for the pin. It's a lot less effective now. All we'd have to do is just longside castle. And look at this position. We have the the rook and the queen paired off together. We have loads of minor pieces out, and even if he was to just go ahead and take now, this works out great for us. We can just look at starting to get this bishop out, get this rook onto the open file, and we're in a completely dominating position there. But just bringing it back, we have come across and we have ended up in this position here with the queen on the a3. And again, White just continues development as normal, getting the bishop out to the c4. Now, this bishop is fairly perfectly placed. It's on a fantastic diagonal here, very key diagonal, and it's also attacking this fairly weak f7 pawn here. And Black makes the fairly questionable move of bringing the queen up to the a5. It's too many queen moves. This entire time, White has just been developing, getting all of his pieces into play, getting it into key positions, and this is what the fourth move of the queen that Black has had. Really, you should be going for something like getting the horsey out, preparing for the castle, something like that, keeping the queen in enemy territory as long as possible. If the queen was still down here, when the rook comes up onto the b3, then move the queen out of the way, but just carrying on development as normal is what you should be going for. But like I say, instead he comes up on the a5, and White just gets castled off. Now, looking at our position here, we have the king is in safety, pretty much all the minor pieces out. It's just absolutely fantastic for White at the moment. Another problem with this queen being here is if he was to play something like getting the horsey out now, it does run into this trap where the e5 gets pushed up and after takes, and the forcing the horsey down to here. After the bishop takes the pawn, king moves. It falls into a trap, losing the queen, of horsey coming up, exposing the queen, putting him in check, and then after takes, it is just game over for Black. So really, Black is slightly limited in his moves, and he decides to push forwards the pawn onto the e6. Again, more pawn moves though. Ideally, you should be going for something more like getting out the other horsey to here onto the d7. Again, just developing, but it's, again, not too comfortable. This bishop is kind of blocked in there. So he goes for the pawn out to the e6, and we could just slowly see that eval bar just going up more and more in white's favour. And then rook just comes across to the e1. Now every single piece is in action here. Absolutely fantastic. Like, look, just we have the rook on an open file, this rook's on a fairly key file, the queen and the bishop are paired up together, this bishop's still on a fairly commanding line here. It's just absolutely fantastic for white here. And black's very, very uncomfortable. He's going to have a lot of troubles trying to get castled off now. Clearly, we know that could bring in the horsey across to here on the f6 isn't going to work out. And if he decides to bring it across to here on the e7, it falls into the exact same trap. Bishop goes and takes, king takes back, hops up, puts him in check, and then threatening the queen. Nothing he can do about it apart from come across and take, and then we can just go and capture back with the pawn. Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic position for white here. So black comes down with the a6, bit of a nothing move, not really accomplishing too much. And what we need to be doing now is just trying to exploit weaknesses. Looking at this position, there is one pawn which is weak and undefended, and that is right here on the d6. So just sliding back the bishop like so, going across and attacking it. And then from here, black makes the pretty much game over move of pushing forwards the pawn. If you're behind in development, what you want is a closed position. The last thing you want to be doing is opening up the position, because look at all the pieces. I know I keep going on about it, but look at all the pieces that white has in action. It is perfectly placed for an open position here. If black were to close off the position, then white would be struggling a little. Well, not struggling, but it would be a lot more comfortable for black. But now doing this and then just opening up the position, it is just pretty much game over for black here. Now we can see queen is on an open file, and this d6 square is still a vulnerability, so just bringing the queen up into enemy territory there. And it's just fallen apart for black. There is not much he can do. Now, you might be thinking, what if he just goes ahead and takes that pawn? Well, that just falls into this. So the horsey comes up. If he goes ahead and takes, then we just take back with the pawn. We now have the queen here, the rook on the open file here, just coming down attacking, and it is just game over. He can try to block, rook comes up, he can try to block again, and after takes, pawn comes down, rook comes up, and it is just game over. There is nothing black can do in this position. So instead, he decides to, where were we? Oh. So the queen came up and he goes for the queen on the c3, going ahead and taking the horsey. Again, this is nothing that black really needs to, white needs to worry about, because just bringing across the rook, pairing it up with the queen here, we can afford to give up that piece. Right now, we are threatening checkmate. So the horsey comes across to the d7 to try and block the checkmate, but unfortunately it's weakening off the white squares. And this is something that white just completely takes advantage of. Goes up with the bishop like so, sacrifices itself, so then we can now get the other horsey into action. And again, just pairing all these guys up here. We're now on move 16, there's only a couple of moves left. Black's starting to realise that is completely game over. Look at that eval bar at the side. So king hops out of the way back to the e8, and then after the queen comes across on the e6, putting him in check, black just resigns, because there is an inevitable checkmate coming right up. If he comes across and tries to block with the horsey, then check, moves out the way, and it is game over. So on move 17, black just resigns. And honestly, this game is just the perfect example of why it's important just following basic chess principles and just getting your pieces out early. Let's just bring it all the way back to the start. We can just see all the way through, white is just developing all of their pieces while black is just queen move, queen move, queen move. And the entire time, white is just slowly getting all of his pieces into action. And it is just, by move 10, every single piece is in action. Both the rooks are out, the bishops are out, these guys are paired off, the horses are out, we're controlling the entire centre here. It is just absolutely fantastic. And like I say, every single opening theory book that I've read covers this game. It is literally one for the textbooks. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm having a lot of fun making this series, and I'm hoping you're enjoying it and getting a lot from it as well. If you like it, please like it. If you really like it, please subscribe. Really helps the channel grow. And by all means, drop a little comment in the bottom there. You dudes go off, have some fun, play some chess, and I'll catch you all later.